What are you looking at, Savannah? Chicago Cubs winning the World Series. That's when they were good. Whoa! No, don't eat the Cubs! Welcome back, Gold Squad, to the Chicago Cubs franchise. My youngest daughter decided that last night she was going to be looking at a fantasy baseball magazine from way back in 2017, talking about the Chicago Cubs winning the World Series. I just thought that was funny. It was weird that she opened that page up and immediately gravitated towards it and wanted to erase all memory of it. Is that what she was trying to do? I'm not sure. But we're trying to win ourselves a World Series here, right? We've made some moves in the last episode. We're trying to get this team back on track, this organization back on track. This one's going to be a pretty darn good episode. I'm not going to lie to you. It is completely jam-packed. We got a lot of things to talk about here. We've got Adbert Alzolay making his debut this season. Not his Major League debut, but his debut for the Cubs this season after a stellar start down at the AAA level in the last episode. We're taking on the Red Sox in this episode. You know that they're in the middle of a playoff race. They've got former Cubby players like Rafael Ortega and Yan Gomes, even though Yan Gomes is not playing today, not a left-handed starter on the mound. So it's going to be interesting to see what the Red Sox do. I know a lot of Cubbies fans out there are not Red Sox fans, but it's going to be interesting to see if those trades pay off, what we've given some of our players up to them. And it's going to be interesting to see how Alzolay is going to do here against these hard-hitting Red Sox. Here's a deep drive here to Franchy Cordero. That's carrying up in the wind, but he's going to stick his glove out and make the catch at the warning track. That's a great play out there by newly acquired Franchy Cordero. So really, that's what this episode is all about, man. We want to see how these new-look Cubs are going to fare in the blue pinstripes. I want to see what these guys are able to do here. But we've got a little looping, little Texas leaguer going to fall right in between right field and second base. That's going to allow Nick Madrigal to run all the way to third base. And now we've got a deep drive here to center field. And we got to hold up because that one could be caught, and it is, by Kike Hernandez. And Madrigal will tag up and score to make it 1-0. But man, what a heck of a catch here in center field. Now Patrick Wisdom's going to strike out, which he often does. Seiya Suzuki, we're shooting for that home run, but he's going to lace this one right over top of the bag. We're going to go aggressive style here, base running with Nico Hoerner. He slides in safely in third. A little fastball inside to Ian Happ. That's not a pitch that you like to throw left-handed hitters. And he's going to lace this thing all the way to the wall. JD Martinez gets it into the cutoff man, but that's going to be another run scored here for the Cubs. It's a big knock. Brennan Davis comes up, line drive, but right at Xander Bogaerts. That's going to end the inning. Now, we've got a runner on second base here. Brennan Davis going to come up firing here, get it back into Hoerner. We got runners on the corners here for the Red Sox. Bobby Dahlbeck swing and a miss. Nice 88-mile-an-hour slider, high and out. Alzolay gets his first strikeout of the game. Next up, we've got Kike Hernandez. He's going to take this one, looking, just staring it down, high and inside. Nice pitch, good K. It's still 3-0. Franchy Cordero is going to actually get plunked. It's going to take a little time getting to first base, but here comes Nick Fortes. Guys, look at it. Batting average is 0 right now. First hit as a Cub. Home run. He hasn't even played yet. Oh, that is huge. His first at-bat as a Chicago Cub, and he hits a bomb, a 2-run home run. What an acquisition there, right? And then take a look here on the defensive side of things. Top third, throwing a runner out. Look at that pop time, 177, almost 20 miles an hour from Trevor Story. And take a look at the gun. 40's got a gun, baby, baby. No. All right, base hit here right after the runner was thrown out. So we do get that runner back on first base. They're going to test him again. We'll see. We'll find out here. But Bogaerts is actually going to swing and a miss. Another slider, high and outside. So Alzolay, he likes that pitch right there. Here comes Rafael Devers. He's going to swing right through that pitch. And Alzolay's now got a couple strikeouts to his name so far in this action here. But take a look at Ian Happ and JD Martinez running into the ivy, running into the brick. But he makes the catch anyway. What a grab. And man, had that just gone out just a little bit further, gotten at least a little bit more wood from Ian Happ, that would have been a nice knock. Would have been 6-0 at that point. But 5-0 game here as we jump to the bottom of the 4th inning, and Brennan Davis going to get a perfect. He is swinging a hot stick here, having such a great rookie campaign. I say great, 240, 250. I'm going to say that's great for a guy like Brennan Davis. He's not a prodigious type of player like a Mike Trout or something. You take a 240, 250 from a rookie season from a guy like this. This is what you do. Franchy Cordero going to swing and a miss as Sawamura going to strike him out. This is not a bad pitch not a good pitch, I should say. Not a good pitch to swing at, but we offered anyway, just not paying attention. But we do get the ball lifted out here to the outfield. We're going to advance the runner from second to third, and then Nick Madrigal, a little pop-up, and Bogarts is there to make the catch, make the grab, and we're moving here to the top of the 5th inning. Dahlbeck is going to swing and a miss again, swinging right through all the off-speed stuff. Circle change by Alzolay. He gets the out. Now here's a ground ball in the outfield grass, and Nick Madrigal makes the play. And what a play that was, keeping runners off base, because you got Trevor Story coming up. A 2-run homer gets him right back into the ballgame. So that was a huge out. Great play by Madrigal to get us out of there. So let's now jump to Sean Newcomb's first appearance in gameplay for our Chicago Cubs. Top 6, and he's going to get this ground ball here. Fortes makes the play, completes the out. Nice job there as our new catcher. Patrick Wisdom playing in the shift from all the way in the hole. Makes a great play there. He's just a weird player, man. Sometimes, you can't not play him. Even though he doesn't hit for a lot of contact, you can't not play him. Good fielder, good power. And then Seiya Suzuki, did he get it? Yes, he did. Home run, solo variety. 6th inning, 6-0. And I don't think that was his 6th home run, but home run nonetheless for Seiya Suzuki. So we get our challenge points. 10 challenge points coming our way. I think we're up to 30 or 40 at this point. I have to go back and look at some of the videos, but the fact that we can upgrade pretty much 4 players by 10 points in their attributes is going to be huge for our progression. Now, if we get to 100, we can spend that all on a player's potential rating. So I got to figure out maybe if there's a player in our minor league system, if there's a guy that we want to upgrade his potential rating from a D to a C, something like that. 1 letter grade is basically what you would do, and we'll look at that in the offseason. But so far, Darwinzon Hernandez is pitching really good here. He did give up a base knock here to get a guy on base, but Horner's going to come on in and take charge of this and get the out, and we're going to go into the 9th inning with Archie Bradley, the newly acquired closer from the LA Angels. Now, he is 29 years old, so he's not a spring chicken like I mentioned in the last episode, but he's a guy that I think can stick around for a little while. 32, 33 years old. We'll see what the regression looks like for him, but I think he's going to be a good pitcher for us in this rebuild. I think he's going to be a guy that we can rely on in that back end. But 2 outs here. Red Sox down to their final out, and this is going to be a little tapper right in front of Fortes. He makes the off-balance throw, and the Cubs are winners here. 6-0. The new look Chicago Cubs. Had a couple guys that haven't been a part of this organization, but haven't been a part of this team. Bradley, Newcomb, Cordero, Fortes. All these guys came in and they contributed to a nice win over Boston. We'll take a look at their box score. We'll take a look at ours. But one thing I wanted to mention, guys, that I didn't mention at the very beginning of this video, we are going to be getting an organizational update from Greg Huss, which is our minor league advisor. He's a podcaster. He actually is a writer on a couple of websites, CubsInsider.com and, of course, Northside Bound. Those are 2 websites that he is a part of, and Growing Cubs Podcast is a podcast that he operates as well. So, really good source of information, really good guy, really enjoyed talking to him. So we're gonna actually simulate all the way up until we're gonna go past July, we're gonna go past August, and we're gonna get into September. And from September is when we're gonna start talking to Greg. We're gonna look at our organization, we're gonna look at some minor leaguers that he likes, give us a little scouting report on some of these players, where they fit in real life with the Cubs organization. Maybe if we can get more of an idea on those players, we can kind of get an idea of who we want to keep around as part of this rebuild as we did acquire a lot of players, a lot of good prospects that might take jobs away from them. And I think just going forward in this rebuild, if there's guys that the Cubs truly in real life believe in, I don't necessarily want to just railroad those guys like that. So I want to be careful about who I'm taking jobs and playing time away from, if that makes sense. But you guys saw a couple trade offers that popped up. No, I did not even consider what the Yankees were offering me. I hate the Yankees. I'm not helping those guys out at all. We've had a couple offers that were too good to pass up, but I passed up on them anyway because the CPU sometimes doesn't know what's best for themselves, and we are moving past the trade deadline. And Nicky Lopez being traded from the Kansas City Royals over to the San Francisco Giants. And as you saw, Alberto Mondesi moving on from the Royals as well to the Cardinals. So we're going to have to be dealing with Mondesi for a little while at the top or even the bottom of their order. Depends on how he's doing. If he's slumping, definitely a bottom of the order hitter. If he's doing well, definitely top of the order guy. But 61-73 is our record right now. We're finishing just a little bit under the Phillies, a little bit above the Marlins right now with about a month and a half left to go. Your playoff races here, we got the Rays, the Rangers, the Red Sox. So teams that we've made trades with, Rangers, Angels. The Angels are 67-67, so the Rangers are actually doing a little bit better. They needed the pitchers that we gave them for sure. So I'm anxious to see how, those guys are doing for them. But the Rays are hanging in there with the Blue Jays, the Padres, the Mets are duking it out, the Giants, the Cardinals. Pirates are actually better than us. That's crazy to me. So I feel kind of bad just kind of slighting them in our team reveal video. But guys, let's get to talking to Greg here and get an organizational scouting update. So after a pretty mediocre rest of the season here in 2022, I'm bringing in my minor league advisor, Greg Huss. He's going to be talking about what are some guys that we need to call up here, man. So, Greg, what do you think here? 61-73 team, obviously, does that meet the expectation of Cubs fans right now? Even though, we knew beforehand we were not a playoff team?
I think that it probably doesn't meet the expectations of Cubs fans as a whole, but they're expecting more year in and year out. But I will say that, considering the roster that this team had prior to the season starting, the record seems about right, and I think that you kind of the way that you kind of assembled this team since understanding how bad the roster is, I think has been pretty impressive up to this point. So I don't know. 61-73. That's kind of what you see from this type of roster.
Yeah, and so now that we're here in September, I'm actually anxious to see kind of what your thoughts are on some guys that you would consider bringing up to get an extra look at. So after getting some gameplay here with Brailyn Marquez at AA for Tennessee, calling him up in July to AAA level, he's now got a 7-1 record with a 1.76 and a 101 whip, 72 Ks and 12 walks. Can we really deny Brailyn Marquez? What's the strategy here, you think? He's not in our 40-man roster right now. Do we give him the call? Do we start the service time? Do we start the clock? Or do we just let him hang out there at the AAA level, continue to face those hitters and put up some pretty solid stats?
I think it doesn't get a whole lot better than that as far as stats go. He's 23 in AAA, right? And you're looking at a guy that coming into this season, he had missed the previous 2 years basically because of the COVID year and then an arm injury. So the fact that now he's putting up these numbers, you know what the upside is. He's got a B potential there, and you know what the upside is with Brailyn Marquez. And if he's putting up these type of numbers, I think he's potentially a stabilizing force in your rotation.
I think you're right. I think we got to go that route. But here's another guy, Caleb Killian, who's making a push. You could argue it's not as good as Brailyn Marquez's numbers: 6-3, 56 strikeouts, 24 walks, a 202 and a 113. That's still good. But would you lean more towards Marquez? Do you think he's got more upside? They're only a year difference. In the show at least they've got the same potential, but what do you think about real life Caleb Killian?
In real life, these two guys couldn't be more opposite, Caleb Killian and Brailyn Marquez, because with Caleb Killian you have a guy that is very a very sure thing. He may not be as high upside, he may not be a number one starting pitcher on the Cubs for years to come, but like he will take up like a number 3, number 4 starter spot for a long time, as opposed to Braylon Marquez kind of fits into the category of like he has potential to be like a number 1, number 2 starter, but he also has potential to like fizzle out and not be nearly as good. So two very, very different pitchers. Caleb Killian is like, people make arguments that Caleb Killian is the number 1 starting pitcher, or the number 1 pitching prospect in the entire Cubs system, over Braylon Marquez, over some other really, really good players. So 2.02 ERA and a sub 1.2 WHIP, like that's, compared to Braylon Marquez's numbers, not as good, but like that's still about as good as it comes. Like those two guys are, I mean, trying to make an argument to be the 2 starting pitchers that win a spot here in September.
But let's talk about catcher right now, because I went out and I acquired this man, Nick Fortes. So getting the call up in July, so he's been playing back up here to Wilson Contreras. 42 at bats, 3 bombs, 9 ribbies, 357. Split time, man. He's doing pretty well here. Is there another player? I know that Pablo, is it Aliendo?
It is, yeah.
He's how high are you on Pablo Aliendo?
Yeah. Well, here's what I'll say about Pablo Aliendo. Like, I know like it doesn't translate as much to this game, but like he is one of the most fun players to watch in the entire Cubs system. Like he is always like got a smile on his face. Like he's all over the place. Like he's high energy. He's a fun guy. Like, like, I mean, you're a Tigers guy. Like, you get to watch Javier Baez play baseball now, right? And
yeah.
So it's like that entertainment factor. Pablo Aliendo behind the plate like brings that entertainment factor. He's got a pretty good arm back there, and he's pretty good at at defending. He's getting better at like calling games. You know what I mean? So he's still got to put on quite a bit of weight in order for like the bat to actually do anything. Like right now, he's just kind of like a contact guy and hoping to put on some muscle, but he's not one of those guys that's ever going to be like a top 100 prospect, top 50 prospect in baseball. I think that he has potential to be like a really good backup catcher in Chicago someday, but and I don't think that he's a guy that you're hoping for to be a starter in the major leagues. You going out and getting Patrick Bailey is something that I think that if there's ever going to be, as far as like the catchers you have on this roster, between Patrick Bailey and Miguel Amaya, those are the 2 guys that could be the heir apparent to Wilson Contreras. Miguel Amaya, the problem with him, and I think the reason why is in this game the potential is so low, is that he just had Tommy John surgery this past year in real life. And so when a catcher kind of has Tommy John surgery, just like a pitcher, right? That's a pretty significant surgery for a catcher. So we don't know how he's going to return from injury, don't know how that's going to go. But acquiring Patrick Bailey, that could potentially, if he can continue to improve and put up some good numbers maybe next year, that's a guy that could potentially, in a few years, kind of dethrone Wilson Contreras as he continues to get older. But like really, this catching this position, all these catchers on this Cubs organization, there's not a whole lot of like starter material there. I think that it becomes super, super important to like either extend Wilson Contreras and keep him on the team in future years, or go out and find another like really good starting catcher. You know what I mean? So not a whole lot of like starting catcher depth for the future of the Cubs on this roster.
I think it's just funny because this is our first conversation, but man, I'm right there with you. I agree with you 100%.
I think it's a big time like in this game and real life, right? Like that we're like, if you're the Cubs and you have Wilson Contreras, who is, I mean, you could probably make the argument that he's a top 5 catcher in baseball. I mean, for sure a top 10 catcher. And like when you have that guy on your team, you almost like have to extend him. I know that like catchers don't really age well. Like once they hit like 32, 33, like they're not doing so well because they've had a lot of wear and tear on their legs. But like also like the drop off in terms of like quality catchers in Major League Baseball, like after you get past those like top 10 guys or so, like numbers 11 through 30 are not very good in baseball, right. So if you have one of those like top tier guys, you almost like have to make sure they stick around for as long as you can possibly keep them.
I mean, you're right. It completely falls off a cliff. Like even just play fantasy baseball and you'll see it right off the get-go. Like there's just, after, like you said, after that first couple of top tier, then it just boom, it just completely falls off a cliff. All right, so you actually made the recommendation to call up Alfonso Rivas when Schwindel went down, and that was a really good decision because the man performed pretty well in limited time. He wasn't. I mean, Schwindel was only out for a couple weeks, I think. He wasn't out for that long, but we needed somebody, and he held his own. 243, had 3 stolen bags from a first baseman. Played a little outfield, so he's got some speed, but no caught stealings. Had a home run, 5 ribbies. I mean, that's about. Look at the sample size. It's about the same thing that he did last year.
Yeah.
Have some progression too. As a D potential player, he's having some progression, which was nice. But what do you? I want to know, kind of with that D potential, kind of what are your thoughts about Bryce Ball?
Bryce Ball is like. You look at that picture there, and that's like incredibly accurate. Like, he's just a massive human being. Like, he kind of looks bigger than all the other players on the screen.
Oh my god,
he's huge, man. Like, he is 6'6". He got a nickname when he was in college of Ball Bunyan because he's so big. Instead of like Paul Bunyan, he got Ball Bunyan.
Yeah,
he's a huge guy, and really like. He's got a whole lot of like power potential because he's so huge and like he can just hit the ball out of the ballpark. But up to this point in his career, he just hit a lot of ground balls. And it's like there's a lot of those guys like in Major League Baseball that like all you got to do is get those big power potential guys to stop hitting the ball on the ground.
Yeah.
Because if they just get the ball in the air, then like the ball's gonna go out of the park. And so
yeah.
I think that's what you're getting with Bryce Ball is like if he can kind of transform who he is as the type of hitter he is, like he can really take off just because the power potential is so big. And he's not gonna give you a whole like if you're looking at like the first base prospects, like Rivas is your guy in terms of like defense. Bryce Ball is more of like a DH guy. Like he might be able to play like good enough defense at first base, but he's more of a DH type. Whereas like really like Bryce Ball, like in an ideal world, Bryce Ball and Alfonso Rivas are like very, very different players, right? Rivas is contact oriented with really good defense. Bryce Ball is like power.
Yeah. That's interesting that you say that because that was like one of the big things for me when I was going out and finding guys like Lugbauer and Cavadas. I wanted guys that were able to like be that prototypical power hitting first baseman. And when I'm looking at Frank Schwindel, he's got 79 power against lefties, but I didn't see, at least in this game, right? So I mean the 55 power against righties. He got 18 home runs in this season, 14 last year through that. Was he called up in September or was he called up in June? No, it's 64 games.
It wasn't
That's
quite
not September.
Because he was like a waiver wire pickup. I actually saw him in AAA live. I was watching him take batting practice. It was like the day after he got picked up on waivers by the Cubs. I was watching him take batting practice live. I was down on the field, right standing up against the batting cage, and I was watching him take batting practice, and he was just like over the. I mean, these minor league parks, like right, a lot of them are like bleachers in the outfield. And Frank Schwindel was taking them over the bleachers, like onto like the concourse behind the bleachers at this minor league stadium. And I was like, who is this guy? Like, who is this player? And like a few days later, he was called up to the bigs and then like absolutely tore it up. So that's kind of my like fun like Frank Schwindel story.
How could you? But that's the thing. Like, how does a team not notice this? How does a team that he was on, which was the Royals? How do they not notice this?
Yeah.
They had to have noticed this.
Because he was in the minors for a long time, he was in the minor leagues. So I don't know how you don't. And he brings a fun skill set, right? Where like he's not like a big power, like in-game power guy, but what he does have is like he makes a lot of contact.
Yeah.
And like puts the ball in play with like authority, even if it's like a double or something, But he's not striking out a ton. So that's always fun with a guy like him. Again, not like your prototypical first baseman, but I'm glad you got like you have ball that potentially could be that. Some of the guys you went out and acquired have potential to be that too.
Now, what about James Triantos, a 76? So he would be the highest rated player. We looked at Marquez as a 73, but Triantos is 76 at 19. 15 bombs at second base. I don't know, man. You got Nick Madrigal there. He's kind of hovering that spot.
Dude, I'll tell you what. James Triantos is maybe my favorite prospect in the entire Cubs system. Now, he's not my top prospect in the Cubs system. I don't think he's number one. But in terms of like who I love like watching and following, I think that James Triantos is the guy. Yeah, I'm glad to see him like tearing it up in this game. I think that in real life at least, he's not a guy that like is gonna make the major leagues this season. So like if you're out there listening and you're like, oh, like James Triantos in real life is gonna be called up to the major leagues, I don't think that's the case. But like, I mean here he's putting up pretty good numbers. You're right. Like Nico or Nick Madrigal is there and kind of set as the starting second baseman in Chicago. But I think that like I don't know. I don't think that James Triantos is necessarily a September call-up, but unless you can give him like a starting spot in Chicago, you know.
Yeah.
I don't know how your lineup's shaking out right now, but if you can call up James Triantos and say like he's playing every single day, starting at second base, or if he can play at third or DHing or whatever, then I think you do it. But I don't think you call up James Triantos to be like a playing once a week type deal. You know what I mean?
Because all you're doing then is you're not getting him regular at bats. You're just stunting his growth. I mean, he is the starter at the AAA system. So it's like, what's the gain here? So we call him up and he's hitting well. He's progressing nicely, and you call him up and he just sits there. So it's like, it just doesn't do him any good. But the thing that makes it so hard about Patrick Wisdom is that the age isn't terrible, and he's gonna give you that freaking prodigious power. Plus, he plays the field like incredibly. So it's like, what do you do? No vision, little contact, pure power, pure fielding. It's like I don't know what to do with you. I guess we keep you.
Yeah, we were just talking about like it's a team that doesn't have a whole lot of like actual like big power. You know,
right? And
so like with Patrick Wisdom, like he does bring that power. Like if there's no other middle of the order bats, like Patrick Wisdom can be that dude. And like look at that, look at the power numbers from him.
I know, it's ridiculous. It's like he doesn't give you much of a choice. That's the thing that's so funny to me about Patrick Wisdom is he forces himself on you, and you can't get rid of him because you're like, that power is so good, man. The fielding's so good. Sure, I guess you're staying. It's like, you're gonna hit 238, okay, but if we start dipping to 210, I might consider go bye-bye. But yeah. I guess there's nothing else for me here other than like Christopher Morel. You know, he's just kind of a guy that's.
Can I talk about Christopher Morel a little bit here? Because I talk about guys that I love. Like he is second reference to Javier Baez in this episode here, but Christopher Morel is just like a poor man's Javi Baez, right? Like he swings as hard as he possibly can. He's gonna chase a lot of pitches, but he's also gonna do things on a baseball field that like you didn't know were possible. Like you know, like Javier Baez does something, and it's like I've watched baseball my entire life, and I've never seen something like that in my entire life.
Yeah.
Yep. Christopher Morel does that like in the minor leagues for the Cubs. Like he's so fun to watch, just a ball of energy. Like runs the bases really well, has an absolute cannon of an arm. Pretty good defender. Like last year he played second base, shortstop, third base, and all three outfield positions. So he played 6 different positions last year. I think Christopher Morel is a guy that like is just the most fun bench bat of all time.
That's hilarious. What a way to classify him. That's so funny. He's the most fun bench bat of all time. That's great.
I know like being on the major league roster now, I think that's a I don't think it's bad to have him there, but I also think it's fair to have him in AAA, especially if there's somebody else that you want to like get up in September with the rosters.
Yeah, and so you were thinking like next year maybe even?
I think so. Yeah, I think that makes sense.
Yeah. Yeah, well, he's not even doing too bad. Like 2 home runs for 162 at bats in 44 games as a bench guy.
Flexibility too. I mean, look at that. Like he plays second, third, all the outfield. Like he plays everywhere.
Super utility man. Exactly. He's an energetic super utility man. Bench bat.
And he can get he gets more at bats just because he plays all over. Like whoever needs an off day that day. Yeah. Like he can just fill that lineup spot.
So basically, when VR's gone, he fills that role because VR's kind of like that first, second, short third center. It's
Exactly.
Yep. Nico Horner. I love Nico Horner, but the show hates him for some reason. He just doesn't hit, man. It's so frustrating. But I'm not. For all you guys that are watching right now, I am not getting rid of Nico Horner. I don't care what's offered. He's not going anywhere. That defense.
My shortstop.
Yeah, he's my guy. He's my guy. He's not going anywhere. But this dude that we acquired here from the Giants in one of those trades, shortstop Archimedes Gamboa. This is one of the smoothest swings that I've seen in a while from a player that I've looked at. So I like him, even though that deep potential. Not on the 40-man right now. I can't really find a spot for him right now. I'd just rather have him grind out there. But really, there's nothing here that we're so young at shortstop. I don't know how you feel about it, but we're so young here. I just can't really make a case to get the call up. Our middle infield is so, I want to use the term loaded loosely, but there's just really not a spot for these guys.
Yeah, I think that all the shortstops, I mean, Ed Howard and Reggie Preciado and Kevin Mate, all three of those guys are like potential big leaguers, but just like they're not close yet.
And what sucks is that I kind of think I need to swap these guys out. Like a deep potential Robel Garcia at 29 years old. Like what really is he gonna do? He's hitting 303, so it hurts me to do this, but I need Kevin Mate to like get playing time and really get that progression going.
Show what he can do. Yeah.
Yep. I really need that. But all right, so outfielders. This is I'm an outfielder, so that's my spot, man.
Outfield's fun for the Cubs.
Yeah, that's young, and I've got a few guys that I like based on your tweets and things you've talked about. So Yohendrick, you're gonna have to help me.
Yohendrick
Pinango.
Yep.
Got it.
He's
a 65. He's good.
He's a guy, man. Yeah, he is a guy that has a little bit of power potential, but like he just makes a whole lot of contact. Doesn't strike out very often. He's super young, but also like he could be in real life, like he could be getting a significant amount of playing time in Double-A this year. So I don't think that I think there's other guys in this outfield mix between center field and right field. More so, I think there's some guys that have some September call-up capabilities here for you.
Yeah, so we'll just consider keeping Pinango.
Pinango, yeah.
Pinango.
Easy for you to say.
Pinango. There we go. Got it. Dude, look at this. Like Canario, Alcantara. Like, what do you do, man? Look at the center field spot. It's just ridiculous.
Dude, yeah, and I think that it's worth keeping an eye on Pete Crow Armstrong because like he brings way more to the table. Like looking at his offensive stats is important. Like look at his like ratings for speed and for defense. All right, like he's gonna be a really good defender in center field and a really good like on the base pass, stealing a lot of bases too. So he is probably not a September call up. I'm looking at you already have Brennan Davis on the active roster and he's obviously really impressive. But I think that there's some other guys. I think Alexander Canario, he's way down there for you. I don't know what kind of stats he's put up. Low batting average, but he's got a lot of power potential in real life. He just basically like if you leave a fastball down the middle to Alexander Canario, like he's gonna hit it 450 feet. Like he just now throw him a slider and that's a different story. But like if you throw him a fastball, like he's gonna punish it. So. Christian Franklin is another guy that's kind of like cut out of the same cloth as Pete Crow Armstrong, where he is defense and speed, and then hoping kind of the bat comes around a little bit more. So, guys not putting up great stats in the minor leagues, but Kevin Alcantara from that group is probably the guy that has like he's the youngest, right? Like he's a teenager, and he has potential to grow a lot. So that center field mix is really, really good. I don't know that there's any September call-ups there, but I think that I thought Nelson Velasquez was actually a center fielder on your roster here, but I think that Nelson Velasquez is a right fielder, right? Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that Nelson Velasquez, I think he could be your September call-up. I know that he's only putting up a 230 batting average, but he's pretty good, man. Like in real life, he's absolutely tearing it up right now. He just hit his 6th home run of the year today. And he was a guy who could have won the Cubs Offensive Player of the Year award in the minor leagues last year, and then went to the Arizona Fall League, which is like a whole bunch of like top prospects. And he won that MVP award. and he's come out of the gates really hot this year too, in the minor league season. So I think that Nelson Velasquez is a guy that maybe you challenge him. Maybe you challenge him in September and say, hey, I mean, because he's his overall, what's his overall rating there?
69.
69. So it's a nice overall rating, and
I was waiting for it. I was like, wait, was he gonna do it? He did it.
I think that he might be worth just maybe give him a challenge. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I like that. I like that actually. So really, if I'm thinking about that, I mean, he's on our 40-man roster right now. If those 14 home runs, dude, like I think you're onto something there. The really good fielding numbers, the good speed. Is he a better fielder? He's a better fielder than Pete Crow Armstrong. That's interesting. Not as much speed, but he's
MLB The Show.
Yeah. I don't have any use for him right now. I think that maybe he gets it. He understands it. I hope. He might slash my tires in the parking lot after I have that conversation with him, but I think he's got to go. We got a job to do, man. We can't have these guys blocking our dudes. So I think I want to call up after our conversation. I want to get Marquez up. I want to get Killian up, and I want to get Velasquez up. All right, man. So I can't even do it then, is what we're saying. So we got no-nos here with the 40-man. I can't add him here. That sucks. And I think we're at 13 pitchers as it is already. 1, 2, yeah. So we're at 6 starters there, and 6 relievers. Rowan Wick. Yeah, so we got 13 pitchers. We couldn't even do it anyway. We'd have to call a guy down. We gotta look at people that are already on the 40-man and call somebody up. So, Clint Frazier.
I think that Clint Frazier. Yeah, I think that Clint Frazier makes sense. I mean, he's a guy that's always kind of never gotten really a chance in the major league. So I think that this is an opportunity, even though he's not like a prospect, right? Like not a top prospect, but I think giving him opportunity in September makes a whole lot of sense. All
right, and then so we talked about Canario a little bit. We just called up Velasquez.
In an ideal scenario, you'd be able to call up Canario, but I think that he's just not performing well enough. If he was putting up a little bit better numbers, I think that he might be the guy. But I just think that it wouldn't do any good as far as this game goes to call up a guy with a sub 200 batting average.
Yeah, it wouldn't even make any sense if you wanted to.
Yeah. So I think that looking at a guy like Alfonso Rivas, who performed well during his time in Chicago earlier this year on this team, and is performing incredibly well in real life in Chicago. I think that's a guy that, even though he's that deep potential overall, or deep potential in this game, which is beyond me, but I think it makes a whole lot of sense. And he's still progressing, like you mentioned earlier in this episode, right? He's still progressing even with that D potential.
Yeah, it's weird. It's just weird to me. But we don't even have a true backup first baseman for Schwindel, so I guess that makes the most sense. So
yeah.
All right. Well, what we wanted to do didn't work, but maybe I'll pay more attention to the 40-man next time. I wanted to see these guys in action.
Marquez and Killian are just like we said earlier, right? They're ready to go come opening day 2023.
There you go. Yep. Positive spin right there. All right. Cool. Well, Greg, thanks for chatting, man, and it'll be kind of cool to see how these guys do. Rivas and Frazier and Velasquez as well. I want to get these guys starting for the majority of the rest of the season, because our outfield right now is Seiya and Ian Happ, maybe, and Franchy Cordero a little bit. So I'll just kind of try to split some time between these 3 guys. It's a pointless season now, so we want to kind of lean into those youngsters, but Seiya's an absolute start every single night, so that's not a problem.
Yeah, a good opportunity to get Nelson Velasquez some ABs for sure.
All right, guys. Well, that's going to do it for the episode. Leave a like if you like this thing. If you have not checked out Greg on his websites and his podcast, please do so. I'm going to swing it back over here to Greg to tell you where to find him.
Yeah, you can find, I'm writing over at Northside Bound. I'm writing over at CubsInsider.com. You can find both those websites. And then I'm podcasting, Growing Cubs podcast. So if you guys love prospect content, if you like this episode, Go check that out. You can find me on Twitter at Out of the Vines. All kinds of prospect content. Probably too much, but if you're into that sort of thing, then I'm your guy, I guess. So again, Northside Bound, Cubs Insider, Growing Cubs podcast, and then at Out of the Vines.
All right, cool. All right, thanks, Greg. I'll be looking forward to talking to you more about our Cubbies and seeing what your thoughts are and maybe who we need to call up in next season. So next season is going to be huge for us, guys. Year 2 of this rebuild, it's going to be absolutely big time. Seeing our prospects that we just drafted, Chris Addison, 2 pitchers that we acquired from the NCAA series. So it's going to be our pitching staff, I think, is going to be absolutely just loaded, and that's how you build a winning team, man. We got to have that. That's my firm belief. So it'll be interesting to see what Greg has to say about our new look Cubbies here in year number 2. So guys, leave a like if you like this thing. I'll catch you in the next one next week. As always, thanks for watching and peace.